Memorial Stadium, Hoosier Nation will celebrate last year's national championship and the ascending stars from that year's team, all while embracing the future. A unique night for the IU spring football game. And it is great to have you with us. Jack Kaiser, Jake Butt, Kelsey Casper down to the sidelines. Fan, they all say the same thing. I can't believe we actually won the national championship. And Jake, with this coaching staff, there is no reason to think they can't do it again.
Well, not just win the national championship, 16-0 undefeated and took down all the best teams in college football. Now the fun part is they get to figure out, can they repeat, go back to back. Now what's interesting is usually when a team has the success that Indiana had, their staff gets rated. Coordinators become head coaches, position coaches become coordinators. There was a lot of great players on Indiana last year, but the driving force remains intact. Signetti's back and all three coordinators. It's a reason why I'm still high on Indiana to make a deep playoff run.
No doubt, and IU's Heisman winner Fernando Mendoza moments away from getting drafted. The Raiders are on the clock as we speak. So IU transitions to a new quarterback, Josh Hoover, coming in from TCU. Jake, why is he the right fit for this team?
Well, he's the right fit because Signetti said he's the right fit. There's a history here. Every quarterback that he's brought in has had the best season of their careers under Signetti's leadership. And one of the key traits is Hoover is extremely experienced, started a ton of games back at TCU. I think this offense is going to be different. You see his legs showing up, but he's not quite the runner as for Fernando Mendoza. But that's what he does well, pushing the ball downfield, and he's got some fun weapons to throw the ball to that we'll highlight tonight.
He's the sixth different quarterback in 6 years for Curt Signetti, all having the best seasons of their career. Hoover and the Hoosiers take with Mendoza, presumably the #1 overall pick, about to be picked, and Curt Signetti's 2026 Hoosiers playing their spring game in front of an awesome crowd at Memorial Stadium. It is a perfect night, mid-70s, all sunshine today. You never know in April, and everyone is very anxious to see the new quarterback for Indiana, Josh Hoover, coming in from TCU. Let's go to Kelsey Casper standing by with Curt Signetti.
Well, Coach, you blinked in the spring game. It's already here. First time playing in front of these fans since you won a national championship. How good does it feel to be back in this stadium in front of them?
Well, it's a great night to play football. About half the starters won't be participating, so this team's going to look a lot different in the fall. Just want to get through this thing clean, keep them all healthy, and then move forward.
And speaking of new players, you will have a new quarterback. We'll see a couple different arms tonight, but how are you going to be evaluating that position group tonight?
Like any other practice, a guy will take the ones, some of the other guys will take the twos, and what I'll say about Josh is he's about the same spot the other ones were at this time. Now he's got to have a great summer and a great camp.
And while your previous quarterback probably seconds away from potentially being the #1 overall draft pick, just what an incredible opportunity for him, but also this IU football program to represent on the next level.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, I think that's a certainty, and he earned it, and they're getting a great one. He'll prepare and do everything, and I'm excited for all the guys over the next 3 days. We'll have a lot of guys in NFL camps.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Coach. Thanks.
Thank you.
IU could potentially have 10 players drafted over the weekend. It is an absurd class, and they brought in a spectacular wide receiver to help pick up some of the slack from Michigan State, Nick Marsh.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to see Omar Cooper get selected in the first round, Elijah Surratt already going to the NFL, so how do you replenish that room? You go out and get one of the best at his position in the Big Ten, really in all of college football, in Nick Marsh. I'll tell you my comp, it's actually Omar Cooper. Great playmaking ability, great after the catch. You just put the ball in his hands, and he's going to give you yards and touchdowns, and he'll be one of those key pieces for Josh Hoover to connect with.
He is big, he is physical, and he compliments Charlie Becker. What he did in the second half of last season, he was one of the best receivers in the country.
Absolutely, and I think he'll be one of the best receivers in the country going into this season. He's Charlie Big Play Becker, in my opinion. He had his coming out party against Penn State, made some big catches in that game. And then, hey, talk about Ohio State closed out the game in the national title and made some of the biggest catches down the stretch of the season to help them win the national title.
Not playing tonight, out with a hamstring injury. IU is down more players on the offensive side than the defensive side. We're trying to get things started here. Curt Signetti trying to get us all organized. We will start in a moment with the cream and the crimson. We're only playing 2 quarters tonight.
It's a quick one. Spring ball, though.
Yeah.
Spring ball.
Yeah. It's been an odd spring for Indiana with the long season from last year and some of the injuries they've suffered along the way. There have been more guys out than usual.
Yeah, that's the challenge. I mean, look, you'll never trade anything for an undefeated national championship season, but 16 games playing into late January. Signetti said, yeah, spring ball sneaks up on you. They're a little beat up right now. Signetti told us this team's going to look completely different come fall camp.
The first pass from Josh Hoover goes to Nick Marsh. It could be a dynamic combination this year on the national landscape.
Dynamic's the perfect word. You see it right there, and that's the element he's going to add to this offense. A guy that Josh Hoover can get easy completions to that turn into explosive, like you saw right there. The yak ability, the playmaking ability. I know they're losing two great receivers to the NFL, but I think this wide receiver duo with Nick Marsh and Charlie Becker should be one of the best in all of college football.
Absolutely. The numbers for Josh Hoover from TCU. Kurt Signetti loves to talk about production. He's got it. Double clutch and Hoover with the overthrow. There was some pressure in his face. Again, IU has quite a few injuries on the offensive line this spring. Only playing 2 quarters, 15 minutes each. We are live tackling outside of the quarterbacks. That's the good news, and this is how the defense can score points.
My only gripe with this, I think a safety should be worth more than 2 points if you happen to get one in a spring game.
I agree with you. What are we talking here, 4 or 5?
Something like that, at least.
2nd and 10 now. And Hoover to pass once again. Looking over the middle, a tight window. The intended target, Andrew Barker, the redshirt freshman, part of an incredibly young tight end group.
It's a position to watch. We mentioned the O-line is beat up. Tight end group also beat up, also really young. And Riley Nowakowski was one of those unsung heroes of that national title team last year, and they're looking to replace what he did in the receiving game, but he was a great blocker. A lot of unproven names in that room.
Every single tight end on the roster is a freshman by eligibility. And the Hoosiers expected to be led by Brock Schott, the Miami transfer, coming back to his home state, but out injured tonight. Hoover with a little bit of space and whistled down. Again, no live tackling on the quarterbacks. Mario Landino in with the touch, causing the whistle. A returning starter is part of this interior defensive line that is expected to be incredibly stout once again.
He's incredibly stout. They're deep. Landino led the Big Ten in pressures along with his teammate Tyreek Tucker by interior defensive linemen in the Big Ten. Landino just fits perfectly in this Brian Haynes system. A guy that's a little bit lighter, listed at 288 pounds, but extremely quick, disruptive, gets upfield, as you saw there for a sack on 3rd down.
Again, there will be a lot of pressure, we presume, on Josh Hoover today because of the injuries to the offensive line, but also because of how good this IU defense is. So the fans starting to make some noise. You can hear it. Roger Goodell is at the podium right now, and Fernando Mendoza officially announced as the #1 overall pick.
No suspense there. Crowd loves it.
He's hugging his family right now, again back home in Miami. And Mendoza, what he did last year, he is now just the 2nd #1 overall pick in IU history. It will have ramifications for years on this program.
Yeah, and look, I think he's going to be a phenomenal NFL quarterback. I played for the Raiders' new coach, Clint Kubiak, back when I was in Denver. He's a great offensive mind. All he needs is a quarterback that's going to read defenses and make the right decision. That's exactly who Mendoza is.
Oh, Grant Wilson into the game. He pulls it and finds Tyler Morris. Touchdown! First play for the backup QB is a 70-yard score to Morris.
Well, there's a lot of positives here. Grant Wilson is probably the leader for this backup quarterback position, known for his legs. He's a great runner. And then Tyler Morris, it's so good to see him back. Dealt with some ACL injuries back in high school, obviously coming off an ACL. He's healthy now. The coach has said he's a trustworthy, reliable threat, and starting off this spring game with a big-time touchdown.
Right after Fernando Mendoza is drafted #1 overall, it's a touchdown pass in Memorial Stadium. Seems fitting. And Niko Radicic could be the most accurate kicker in college football history by the time he's done. Adds the extra point. And a nice way to start the spring game for Tyler Murray. The transfer from Michigan has played in some big games over the course of his career. And again, right after Fernando Mendoza was announced as the #1 overall pick, you mentioned Tom Brady. He grew up idolizing Tom Brady, and he has the same processing, the same clutch gene that gives Raiders fans a lot of hope going forward.
Yeah, and look, he's a really nice guy, a phenomenal speaker, but don't get it twisted. This guy has that fiery competitiveness similar to Tom Brady. I mean, there's no better example than that 4th and 5 touchdown run to ice the national championship game, the go-ahead touchdown.
I mean, he went from 2 stars, initially committing to Yale before Cal came in late, thinking about a career in finance, and then the last year and a half for Fernando Mendoza has been unbelievable. We're back to action. Josh Hoover back in the field. The carry for Turbo Richard, who streaks ahead for a first down, a gain of 17.
So we're seeing some of these new names start to show up. Obviously, Tyler Morris back from injury, looking good with the touchdown, and then Turbo Richard wearing that #1 that Roman Hemby wore last year. The Turbo name is very fitting. Staff is really excited about him as a runner, also excited about him as a pass catcher.
Best hands out of that main trio of running backs. A lot of make and miss. Make you miss. Makes a guy miss right there as he darts ahead for a few yards. It will be Richard, Kobe Martin, and then when Lee Beebe Jr. is healthy, we expect them to split the carries pretty evenly among those 3.
Yeah, well, just think about this offense. It's an RPO-based system. They want to run the ball. If you win the national championship, you're going to play 15, 16 games. It's a long season, so there's a lot of hits on these running backs, and the benefit of having 3 backs that you believe in and they all complement each other really well is that's going to take some hits on them to allow them to be healthy and fresh late into the postseason.
Running the ball once again. And tied up in the backfield. Joe Yelly got there first along with Byron Baldwin Jr. The ceiling is so high for this guy.
Really, I'd say just for the defense, I'm excited to see them reload once again. And talking to Brian Haynes, he thinks this defensive line is maybe the most athletic that he's ever coached. I think Elijah Hardy there at that linebacker position has All-American potential. He's a great athlete. The secondary reloads once again. This should be one of the nation's top defense again this fall.
Hoover's scrambling and has to throw it away. There was Hardy with the pressure. He really is poised for an All-American season.
Yeah, and look, Aiden Fisher was the leader of this defense. He was so experienced. He was the heartbeat. But Elijah Hardy has a different level of athleticism. Talking to the coaches, they think he's a guy that's going to run 4.4, 4.5. You know, the play that stands out last season is when Jeremiah Smith was running a shallow route. And we know Jeremiah Smith is future top 5 pick. Elijah Hardy as a linebacker ran him down and tackled him in space in that Big Ten championship. So he's that modern NFL rangy 3-down linebacker, and like we both said there, has that All-American potential.
Let's flip it over to the offense. Kelsey standing by with Charlie Becker.
As the #1 overall draft pick. Watching it with his family, and now I'm here with Charlie Becker, one of his friends, former teammate. I mean, Charlie, just what is your reaction seeing one of your good friends be drafted #1 overall?
I mean, I'm just so happy for all the Mendozas. Fernando worked so hard to get to where he's at, and all the hard work paid off. You know, he's such a special person and such a great human. No one's more deserving than him.
All right, are you going to give him a phone call, text? How are you going to congratulate him?
His phone's probably getting blown up, so, you know, maybe I'll call him tomorrow.
Well, right now you're on the sidelines having to watch. What do you think about that early touchdown catch from Morris to get things started?
Yeah, that was awesome. You know, we love to get things going early, try to build momentum. You know, I think the offense is doing great so far. O-line's working hard. Quarterbacks are, you know, seeing the field, and wide receivers are doing the job getting open.
I know you want to be on the field right now, but sideline currently, hoping to get you back soon. But take me back to last year. You took a really big drop mid-season. How do you think your role is going to develop even more this year?
Yes, ma'am. You know, last year it took a little while to get going, but, you know, I was super blessed that my number got called, and, you know, I just hope that I can continue with the momentum that I had last year and just keep building.
And now Fernando gone, playing at the next level. A new quarterback's going to have to come in. We've seen a couple arms, including Josh Hoover. Just what has that been like, trying to find some rhythm with a new quarterback?
Yeah, Josh also, he works super, super hard. And as soon as, the national championship was done, I got a text from Josh saying, hey, whenever you're back in Bloomington, I know you guys need a little break, but whenever you're back, we'd love to, get this thing going, try to build this connection that me and Fernando had. He's just worked super hard, and he's a great person. I'm excited to see where he takes our team.
All right, expectations, they're high for this team. What's going to be the biggest difference in this group compared to last year?
Yeah, I think, as just right now, I think last year's group, we were really close, and we were like a family. And, of course, that just takes time, and I think that we'll be able to build that, come season.
All right, thank you so much for your time, Charlie. Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
He can't help himself. He's so invested in the game. He was locked in on that catch from Tyler Morris. You said it. Between Becker and Marsh, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a better combo in the Big Ten, maybe outside of Ohio State.
Yeah, they complement each other so well. Charlie Becker was a great track athlete. We saw what he can do catching the ball down the field. Nick Marsh is a guy that can win at all three levels. We're now seeing Tyler Morris heavily targeted early in this game, probably slotted as that wide receiver 3 for this offense. So that's always the challenge after you have such a successful season like Indiana did last year, is you now have to reload, because in order to have a great season, you have NFL players that go on to the next level. Most staffs lose their coordinators to become head coaches, but the good thing for Indiana is this staff is back. Some of their key players are back, like Becker, and they've reloaded at key positions at quarterback, and like Nick Marsh.
Top 10 transfer portal class. The high school recruiting continues to excel as Grant Wilson is tapped down in the backfield. Defensive line continues to penetrate.
I'd add another thing, too, is, Fernando Mendoza is a great example of this. You listen to Charlie Becker talking right there. You listen to all these players. They're not just great football players, they're great people. And I think that's a key factor here of Indiana's success is Signetti's not just looking for talent and potential. He's looking for the right fit in this team. When I look at Indiana's success last year, it was the sum was greater than the parts. They played selfless team football, and that's what you see on this roster.
And that's a sack as Wilson is whistled down. Tyrone Burris Jr. got there, the redshirt freshman out of Indianapolis. You talk about being a good person, and that fits perfectly with Josh Hoover. And everything that Mendoza did, of course, everyone recognized that character, but a great story about Hoover and how conscientious he was. Josh Hoover met a TCU fan in his late 70s at a restaurant when he was at TCU. They became friends, and Josh had lunch with him every Friday for 2 years with this fan. He had just met at a restaurant until he passed away after a couple of years. He was a pallbearer at the funeral. Who does that as a college kid, right? And it's just that character that Curt Signetti seems to always find with his quarterback.
Yeah, that's a guy. It's a great story there, Jack. That's a guy that just gets it. That's a leader. That's a guy that you can put as the face of your team and to lead your locker room. And that'll be the expectations here for Josh Hoover going into this season.
Hoover's been out there for a couple of drives so far. The only touchdown for the offense off the arm of Grant Wilson to Tyler Morris for 70 yards. Again, we're playing 2 full 15-minute quarters tonight in live tackling outside of the quarterbacks.
Here's another thing about Josh Hoover is, these are big shoes to fill. You're talking about filling the shoes of a Heisman winner, a guy that led an undefeated season, now the #1 overall pick in Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders. And there's some areas in Hoover's game that he has to improve upon. Number one is cutting down on those turnovers. And through spring ball, actually what Signetti told us is he's about the same place that Mendoza was. Hey, look, you're going up against this Bryant Haynes defense. It's exotic. There's mixed coverages, different simulated pressures. It's a big challenge. You're going to make some mistakes, but then the summer comes around. You go back to square one. You grow a lot mentally, and each week you start to take major strides. That should be the expectation for Hoover because every quarterback that Signetti has brought in has played their best season in this system.
That's why Josh Hoover is tied for 4th in the Heisman odds as of right now, because of that belief in the system with Curt Signetti and Mike Shanahan. And that was dropped by Andrew Barker, the redshirt freshman tight end. People forget about Curtis Rourke and the season that he had a couple of years ago.
He was in the Heisman running too, and then remember he got injured late in the season and kind of had to play a little bit injured down the stretch, but he came in and had his best season transferred in from OU. So this system works, and asking Signetti and this staff, hey, you learn a lot from losing, but what do you learn from winning and going undefeated? Well, you win when you go undefeated. All of a sudden, it's undeniable proof of concept that what they have going here in Indiana works.
2 losses in the last 2 years. What was the losingest program in FBS history? On the ground this time on 3rd down. Will IU go for it? You would imagine in this kind of setting with the spring game with 5 yards to go. Josh Hoover still looking for some rhythm and tempo on the offensive side of the ball. We've mentioned the injuries to Carter Smith, Bray Lynch in the offensive line, Baylor Wilkin, making things even tougher for him against this defense.
And this down and distance is, and actually they're in an empty set. In an empty set last year with Mendoza, quarterback draw was a viable play call. Josh Hoover, not as good of a runner, so we may not see quarterback draw as often.
But he's on target there to Tyler Morris, who's been the best offensive weapon for IU so far tonight.
Yeah, I'm just really excited for Tyler Morris. He's a guy that was highly recruited. Actually, he was the teammate of J.J. McCarthy coming out of high school. This is a nice job just settling in that zone on the same page as his quarterback, Josh Hoover. But he's battled through injuries, an ACL in high school, an ACL last year. He is more than capable of being a high-level wide receiver. We saw that in the Rose Bowl back when he was at Michigan. Took a shallow cross for a touchdown. The only issue for him is staying healthy, and it's good to see him healthy out here performing tonight.
Hand off to Richard, looking to get outside, and full speed ahead, plows for 4. And Kelsey standing by with Carter Smith now.
Yeah, guys, Carter Smith on the sidelines with me, offensive lineman. Obviously not having the opportunity to play today, out for this spring. What has this offseason been like for you and this team coming off a national championship?
For me, it's just been about getting back to healthy, getting back to 100%. You know, I wanted to be able to do it my way, not to just get back to functional, as healthy of an offensive lineman that I can be. And in terms of my role for the spring, you know, just trying to coach up the young guys wherever I can, being able to take a wider perspective of the offense and seeing it all from a distance, I think it really helps expand my knowledge for the game a little bit too.
100%. And right now we know the offensive line, it's a little thin right now with injuries, but this is a group that's returning a lot of experience and also adding it. So how do you evaluate what this team and what this unit's going to look like come fall?
Yeah, I mean, we have a great returning core. You got myself, you got Bray Lynch, who's been a great right guard for us the past 2 years. Drew Evans, who's already come back from an injury, and you know he's one of the strongest guards, one of the best guards in all of college football, in my opinion. Joe Brunner, who's a Wisconsin transfer, a really solid dude, a really solid senior, really great for the core of the culture of the offensive line, and he's really heavy set. So he's good at the line of scrimmage. And then obviously a guy that you've seen in a few games before is Demola. He's so athletic. He can play interior, exterior, like whatever you need him to do, he's going to be able to get it done.
I know we were just talking with Charlie Becker. Wow, Fernando was getting drafted 1st overall. Just what are your thoughts running through your head when you see him up on the big screen, knowing he's going to be playing that NFL next year?
And he deserves it. You know, he's poured his heart and his soul into everything that he's done. And he praises God with everything that he does, and it's just so inspiring to all the boys here, and I couldn't be prouder. It's so incredible for him.
Thank you so much for your time, Carter. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Carter Smith leading the Hoggies from last year that Fernando loved so much.
And how about Carter Smith? I mean, he committed to Indiana before Signetti got here, so he's seen the lows. Now he's been a part of the highs and had an awesome season last year, earning the Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year. Obviously a key piece of what was a Joe Moore Award finalist offensive line. And you mentioned Joe Brunner. That's a key addition as this offensive line hopes to win the Joe Moore Award this year.
Nice bounce from Kobe Martin to pick up the 1st down. You'd think they'd be near the top of that list. The big question of the offensive line is replacing Pat Coogan at center.
Yeah, and that position is so important. That's the leadership position of your offensive line. You make all the calls. You help with protection. It's double important when you're bringing in a new quarterback because now Josh Hoover is learning a brand new system. He has to learn those calls. So getting those guys on the same page is critical. I think Signetti had a quote earlier in the spring. They've been working 5 different guys at that center position just to continue to build depth, knowing its importance in this offense.
Drew Evans, Bray Lynch, the 2 Main center so far, going deep. Nick Marsh, bit of a tug there, and the flag comes in. Jalen Bell with the coverage, and you can see that shoulder being tugged the whole way down the sideline.
Pass interference, defense, number 3, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Yep, there's the jersey tug, a good catch there by the official. But get used to seeing this. Josh Hoover, when he sees one-on-one with Nick Marsh, he's going to give his guy a chance. And this is something that Josh Hoover has done really well throughout his career. He throws a real pretty deep ball, very catchable deep ball. Had nice tempo, pacing, arc on that throw. Would have given his guy a chance, of course. Defensive pass interference negates that.
Josh Hoover just has a ton of reps over his career as he hands this to Richard. Nice spin move, still going inside the 10. And the helmet dislodged from Preston Zachman on defense.
And we've been hearing all spring, especially with the offensive line injuries, that the defense has been ahead of them. I think some of that's expected considering how much newness there is at quarterback, wide receiver, running back, and tight end. But I've been impressed with the way this offensive line has been working. They've been able to open up some holes here in the run game.
Let's see if they can pay it off. This is going to be the 12th play of the drive, now inside of the 10, and certainly the best drive for Josh Hoover's unit. Richard up the gut, inside of the 5, and all the way down to the 4.
And this red zone is like a game in and of itself, and Indiana was so good in situational football, especially in the red zone last year. Very important that they continue to strive for touchdowns.
Staying on the ground. This time Richards wrapped up in the backfield.
Again, it's going to look different. I mean, one of their best plays down in the red zone was that back shoulder fade. Mendoza and Surratt were just consistently on the same page. Charlie Becker making contested catches. So now it's Josh Hoover throwing to Nick Marsh and Charlie Becker with new faces in the running back room, in the tight end room. So how they get there to the touchdown may look different.
IU lost its top 2 players at every skill position. Second down. Hoover pressured and out of the back of the end zone. He had Shaz Preston for a moment.
Flashbacks of the Mendoza to Cooper Penn State touchdown. Pressure in his face off his back foot.
Omar Cooper might have come down with that.
Yeah.
He's the other guy that IU fans expect
his name tonight.
Get drafted later. He would be the first IU receiver drafted in the first round, probably the highest overall pick for a receiver since Thomas Lewis in '94. He was taken 24th overall.
Just hints at it. There is a new standard here for the Hoosiers with Signetti.
Everything is picked up. Third down, empty set for Hoover. Pressure off the edge and nearly picked.
So that play right there is a great example of the challenges that Hoover's going through this spring. This is the Bryant Haynes special. Simulated pressure. You have no clue who's coming in from where. Remember, Josh Hoover, the biggest area of improvement in his game is cutting down on those turnovers, especially in the red zone. Got lucky. That should have been a pick and maybe could have been a pick 6 if it weren't dropped by the defense.
Talking to Tino Sinceri, quarterback coach brought back from UCLA, where he was the OC last year, after he was the QB coach for Curt Signetti 2 seasons ago. And cutting down on those turnovers, that's the big storyline. Of course, Curt Signetti throwing some shade back at Sonny Dykes, saying, well, he finally has a great defense and a run game now.
Well, that's absolutely true. I mean, look, the truth is that Josh Hoover, the winning formula for TCU is they had to outscore teams, and he wasn't helped by a run game. TCU was outside of the top 90 in rush offense in all of college football. You come to Indiana where they're going to be a balanced offense, run first, RPO. He's going to have a defense where he doesn't have to press and take risks to win games. So then it just becomes a mental battle to make that shift. Hey, if you have too many turnovers, you can actually lose the game. That is not the standard or expectation when Signetti's your head coach. So it should be a different mental battle for Josh Hoover.
And coming up this Saturday, more spring football comes your way when the Gophers are on the field in the Twin Cities. Live coverage begins at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. This is a terrific crowd tonight for a spring football game. After the 15-play drive from Indiana here in the first quarter, the weather's great. You got the draft on the big board, everything coming together for kind of a picture-perfect night as far as a preview for next year.
People tailgating 3 or 4 hours before kickoff.
3 p.m. Tailgate field's open. And they have a big game here in Bloomington mid-October that the atmosphere is just going to be elite for with Ohio State coming to town. Just about to end the first of 2 quarters in our game tonight. Tyler Cherry out for the first time at quarterback. Former top 25 quarterback in his class a couple of years ago at a Center Grove High School about 40 minutes north of here. High hopes for Tyler Cherry. He'll hand it off on his first play. There's definitely quarterback competition between Cherry and Grant Wilson. See who's going to be QB2. Cherry with a lot of talent. He's improved his arm strength.
That's the end of the first quarter.
And his offense will be back to work after the short break. Spring game for the Hoosiers. Getting ready to start the second period of IU's spring game in Bloomington with the offense a 1-point edge so far. Appreciate you joining us. Jack Kaiser alongside Jake Butt, Kelsey Casper down on the sidelines. Big story, Josh Hoover, transfer quarterback from TCU, replacing the Heisman winner Fernando Mendoza. How did he look to you in that first period?
Spring game. I mean, there's not much to see.
Right.
He's got a quick release that showed up. Yeah. It's good to see Tyler Moore's flash. The one thing is he had a near interception. Should have had it in the low red zone. That's the concerning piece that he needs to eliminate from his game. But what's Signetti tell us? That's expected in spring ball. He'll make major strides come fall camp. I'd say the big takeaway is it's always just a treat to see this Indiana Hoosier football team play real football. This is the best coach team in college football. It's good to see Signetti get recognized. It's good to see Brian Haynes get recognized with the Broyles Award.
Yep, everyone erupting over that. And Fernando Mendoza earlier when they showed him get drafted first overall by the Raiders on the big board. Again, the first overall pick in IU history, going all the way back to 1938 with Corby Davis. And the Heisman winners drafted by the Raiders. That is a pretty elite group to join.
Wow. Oh, baby. No pressure.
Tim
There's
Brown,
a guy to
Charles
live up to
Woodson,
it, man.
Bo Jackson. That is ridiculous. And look, it seems like a really good fit with the way the Raiders have constructed their roster and the intelligence that Mendoza is going to bring to the position, too.
And that's a tough division. You better have good quarterback play to win it.
Well, Tyler Cherry's the quarterback to start the second period. He throws it outside and connects with Jackson Wasserstrom, the redshirt senior out of Westfield. We expect to see a lot of Tyler Cherry here in the second half.
Yeah, another guy that coming off an injury, but they're really excited about him, has shown flashes this spring. He's a young quarterback, and Signetti likes his veteran quarterback, so the challenge is can he accelerate the developmental timeline to earn that trust from this coaching staff, understanding he missed time due to an injury.
Yeah, knee injury as IU got ready for the Notre Dame game in the college football playoff a couple of years ago. Again, local guy, top 25 recruit at quarterback in his class. He could be in contention for the starting job next year.
Yeah, it's a fair assumption, and that's where this game and this upcoming season is so important. Again, understanding Signetti likes to go to the portal and likes to get proven, experienced guys. So the challenge is can you prove yourself to be so trustworthy that Signetti doesn't do that?
And the defense comes up with a fourth down stop. IU, their strength is going to be on the defensive side this year.
Yeah, and this is where now into the second half, the starters are going to be out. You're starting to get deeper into your rotation. This is where the second unit, third unit, fourth unit defensive line is going to have a major advantage over the second and third unit offensive line, as you're seeing there on third and fourth and short, completely shutting it down.
I think the only questions really for the defense, will the losses of Aiden Fisher, D'Angelo Pons, Lewis Moore, how big of an impact will that have? Will it have a bigger impact than some expect? Because it seems like the next man up is really darn good for Bryant Haynes, too.
Well, the guys you just mentioned were leaders, and the leadership on this team was so important. The culture was so strong. So there's now opportunity for other guys to take leadership roles. Isaiah Bones-Jones has been mentioned as a leader on this team. Tyreek Tucker, a leader on the defensive line. Can Jamari Sharp, a guy that made some of the key plays down the stretch of the season, including the game-sealing interception against Miami, can he lead this cornerback room? Leadership's going to be a big piece of this defense. They got the talent.
You mentioned Bones-Jones. He takes over at that middle linebacker spot for Aiden Fisher. Big impact last year, but a lot demanded of him this season. Josh Hoover's back on the field, looking downfield, and a connection. Sideline. Davion Chandler inside of the 5. That's the best throw we've seen from Josh Hoover.
And there's exactly what makes him a desirable quarterback and why Signetti went out to get him. Watch the quick release, throwing this into a tight window, tight spiral. That ball has zip and tempo. Getting it right in there in between that tight zone coverage for a nice explosive and setting up a scoring opportunity.
29 yards to a sophomore, Davion Chandler, that the coaches have been high on. Very athletic. And we'll see if Hoover can put the offense in the end zone for the first time. Kobe Martin the carry, and he is stood up.
28, Kobe Martin.
We mentioned how many reps Josh Hoover's gotten over the course of his career, going back to high school. He threw over 1,000 passes in high school, and a bunch when he was at TCU. Fernando Mendoza didn't reach 1,000 career passes in his high school and first 2 years of college, those careers combined. He has slung it a lot. Back to Martin, plowing ahead, looks like he's in, and he is. Touchdown for Josh Hoover's group.
28, Kobe Martin, the ball carrier.
Now this one is a great example. Great interior push. Down in the low red zone, what you're taught as an offensive line is you have to score with your man, and then the running back will score. So Kobe Martin's a guy that gets downhill. He's got great strength, 6 foot, about 205 pounds. But because of the push up front, he gets his downhill momentum. That's close. I know we're not going to go to a replay. That's close.
Give it
but
to
they
him.
give him a touchdown.
Tiebreaker always goes to the offense. Right now, get 3 months of Big Ten Plus for just $5.99 a month with promo code SAVE26. You get access to hundreds of live Big Ten sporting events, full and condensed replays, and highlights. Scan the QR code on the screen or go to BigTenPlus.com and make sure to enter SAVE26 when selecting a monthly pass at checkout to take advantage of this offer. A nice push from the offensive line there. Andrew Barker, the tight end, and Ademola Ajani, who played a big role at the end of last season on the offensive line. It's going to be a different line that we're seeing tonight protecting Josh Hoover in a few months.
Here's another spring ball nugget that I find absolutely fascinating with Curt Signetti. You get 15 spring practices, including the spring game. Never used all 15 in his entire career. I just find that absolutely fascinating. Not only that, you know, when I was playing for Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, we'd have 4-hour practices. He would say more is more. The only way you get better at playing football is by playing football. Signetti, not only does he not use all 15 spring practices, but his philosophy is to have very quick spring practices, an hour and a half, 2 hours, a lot of walkthrough time. So the development that they're able to get done in what is reduced time relatively to the rest of the conference is absolutely remarkable.
It kind of feeds into the personality as there's major push from the defensive line of both Curt Signetti and Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh, a bit of a grinder. Everything that Signetti does is so efficient, and the continuity that he's had with this group, really going all the way back to IUP, the loyalty that the coordinators have had to him have led to this success.
Yeah, and that's a big piece of this here too, because there's so much familiarity. He hired these guys for under $10,000 as assistants about a decade ago. They know each other. They understand each other. They're great teachers. Signetti trusts them. That's how he's able to maximize and squeeze every drop of potential out of this team.
Jerrion Campbell with a nice catch and push forward. And Kelsey's standing by now with Tyreek Tucker.
Yes, I'm here with Tyreek, one of the members on the defensive line and one of the members of one of the best defenses in the country last year. A team that went 16-0, national champions. What did you learn and what did you take away from last season?
Last season, we got a lot of experience just playing and, being able to go out there and get that experience against other teams and pretty much see a lot of stuff. It was pretty good for us, and, I feel like it was able to set the tone, and we can build on that this year.
You're expected to be a great defense again this year, but you lose some of your leaders. They graduated last season. How are you going to step up and lead this side of the ball?
Yeah, definitely. We lost a lot of leaders, but I feel like we are prepared for it, and we have the experience to keep building on what we already previously built last season. And we kind of take it one day at a time. It's a process, and it's not really the result oriented. So we kind of trust in the process and believe in that.
And you're one of the few players left that started at James Madison with Kurt Signetti. What has he meant to you in your football career?
He meant a lot to me. He one of the only coaches and to really take a shot on me and, give me an opportunity, and that's all you can ask for. So, I go out there and I play and I put my all into it for him, and, I would think we all do that.
And Coach Signetti said that this team's going to look a lot different in the fall. You got a lot of time until then. Kind of what are some of the things this defense needs to improve upon?
We just got to keep stacking days and, keep building chemistry. We do got some new transfers and young guys that, need to come up and come along with that. And that comes with time and, reps and reps and reps and, just stacking good days. So, I feel like we're in a good spot and, we keep working and we keep building and, we'll eventually get there.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Doesn't he sound like Kurt Signetti?
Yeah. Well, again, just like Charlie Becker, that is a mature young man, a guy that is really emerging as a leader in this defensive line group. He lost his mom to breast cancer, and I think a great leadership example is he raised $70,000 to help fund her recovery. Just a special young man and a key piece of this Indiana defensive success.
So he actually has his own burger now called the Squeak Burger. It's a triple bacon cheeseburger at the Hive restaurant in Bloomington. And all the proceeds of that go to the cancer support community of South Central Indiana, something very important to him because of what you mentioned with his mom.
Here's my question, though. Tyreek Tucker's eating a triple bacon cheeseburger, but how many people are eating a triple bacon cheeseburger out here? I think I could put one
I was going to say, I think you could definitely put one down. It depends on the day for me. For those that know, I did down the Big Ugly back in the day up in Carmel, Indiana.
Well, that does sound pretty good. I might have to go get a triple bacon cheeseburger and support the cause.
Yeah, absolutely. The Squeak Burger at the Hive restaurant in Bloomington. And a handoff from Tyler Cherry. A nice run, push forward for Kyler Kropp. We're seeing fourth, fifth stringers at this point at the running back position. The redshirt sophomore out of New Palestine, Indiana. Then 2 15-minute quarters, and we are about halfway through the second.
As you mentioned, you're getting deeper into the rotation. What that means is that's younger on the roster. A lot of the incoming freshmen, one of the best recruiting classes in Indiana history, a sign once again of changing times under Signetti's leadership.
Whoever he's had out there, they have found success time and again. Sean Kuno dodging outside for a gain of 2. IU has been consistent on the ground. They've been the best running game in the Big Ten when you look at the last 2 years combined, leading the Big Ten in rushing and time of possession in that span. They only pass the ball 40% of the time. Another reason why there will be less pressure on Josh Hoover or whoever's at quarterback for IU this year. Cherry checks it down and met quickly. Davion Chandler stuck for a short gain of 2 to set up third down.
That was a great read by the freshman, number 16, Jamar Owens, playing with great instinct, seeing that screen, triggering downhill, and he was the first one to the party to force a 3rd and long.
What makes this defense for IU that it really reached its peak last year? What makes it so hard to deal with?
It's the most fundamentally sound, most well-coached unit defense in all of college football, and that's why Bryant Haynes won the Broyles Award.
Ball throw to the outside, incomplete, intended for Preston. Yeah, and Other coaches have alluded to it as an
That's a great angle there, too, just showing that there's another piece of it. It's the zone discipline. There's really just never open space with this defense. Everyone seems to be in the right place at the right time.
And the long field goal is good from 50 for Nico Radicic. He hasn't hit a 50-yarder in his career. 5 week in Bloomington, the world's greatest college weekend, getting jump-started by the spring game on Thursday night. And the Big Show has a recap of the NFL Draft plus highlights from around the conference tonight at midnight Eastern, 9 Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Fernando Mendoza drafted first overall as expected, leading Curt Signetti's team to a national championship. IU's first last year. Getting our first look at the 2026 team tonight. Long developing play for Josh Hoover. The presumed starting quarterback this year will scramble for a loss of 1. And we have a flag. Near side of the field.
Holding, defense, number 3, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Curt Signetti looks agitated right now.
There's a standard here. There's a standard. Penalties do not meet that standard. It looked like that time Indiana was playing man-to-man coverage. Now they're a heavy zone team, a lot of quarters, a lot of 3 deep, 4 under. Man-to-man coverage. Got to keep your hands free. Once again, the officials catching it and throwing the flag.
We haven't seen Hartman. I think that was our first flag tonight. Can't be
second, right?
You're right, second. Yes. Nick Marsh going ahead. First stringer still out there, and the expected starting middle linebacker this year, Isaiah Jones, is with Kelsey.
Isaiah, one of the leaders on this defense, you're able to play in that first quarter. Just kind of your opening thoughts on where this defense stands right now in the spring.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of work to do. We've been working really hard this spring, getting new guys in the portal, and returners. We're just trying to mold as a defense, trying to find our identity. But nothing's going to change on our side. We're still got the same D coordinator, same defense, and we're going to play fast physically.
How nice is that to have all those returning coaches and defensive and offensive coordinators on this team?
Yeah, that means a lot. To be able to have all those guys coming back, I mean, you have a firm foundation, and those are the guys that, those are the guys that help you become, the player you want to be and, can take you to the next level, so it means a lot.
You're taking on more of a leadership role this season with the defense as a signal caller this year. Just how have you been able to adjust with that new responsibility?
Yeah, it just, you have to be able to do your job a little bit quicker because, you're trying to get everybody set. And, it's a blessing to be in that position and be able to, wear the green dot and kind of try to run the show.
You made a lot of explosive plays last year, even in the national championship game. What can we expect to see from this defense this season?
A lot of explosives. I think that's what makes this defense special is the TFLs, the sacks, getting after the quarterback, getting to those third down situations. But that all starts with stopping the run. And that's something we pride ourselves on, and that's what you can expect this year, stopping the run and then, those explosive plays, those TFLs and those sacks.
Sure, fans are excited to see them. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Indiana, the second best run defense in the country last year. They're just going to be nasty again this year.
Well, and Isaiah Bones-Jones is kind of a microcosm of what made this team so great last year. They just had so many players make big plays in big moments, and that's exactly what Isaiah Bones-Jones did. It felt like any time he needed to play on third down, a sack, there he was.
Hoover outside, catch Barker, tumbling ahead, and the redshirt freshman tight end has a first down. For those that don't know, he's called Isaiah Bones-Jones because of Brian Haynes' affinity for the UFC and John Bones-Jones. So we look back at this last reception for Barker.
And you can kind of see as this game goes on, Josh Hoover is getting more and more comfortable. He's starting to settle into this game. He's starting to connect with his receivers. Tyler Morris is having a phenomenal game, though it looked like he might have been beat up as he jogged off the field after that explosive a few plays back.
Hoover through the air once again. Another long throw and over the head. Wasserstrom. Among the receivers, the star certainly tonight has been Tyler Morris with 5 catches for over 100 yards. We get another look at this play on Wasserstrom. Stuck by Bell.
Those are tough throws, though. You know, with the wide hashes in college football, you're trying to throw an out route to the field. That's a 5-yard completion, but it's about 30 air yards. Just a little off the mark there from Josh Hoover.
Kuno is destroyed in the backfield.
I think that was Osun Sanme, the transfer from Kansas State, number 12, a guy they're really excited about coming in and playing defensive end. A great up and under. They're beating the tight end, number 85, Andrew Barker. That's certainly a mismatch, when we mentioned the youth in that tight end room against a guy in Osun Sanme that they're really excited about to have a breakout season at defensive end.
That's kind of been the question over the offseason. Is that position D-end for this IU defense? They lost quite a few guys from last year, and Osun Sanme, one of the 2 K-State transfers brought in.
False start, offense, number 56, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
3rd penalty of the game so far.
And to go back to your point, I mean, this is just a different type of player and body in that defensive end room. Kamara was an outstanding player. We saw Stephen Daly really come on late before getting injured after the Big Ten championship game. But the athletes that they have in this defensive end room are just simply different. There's a certain level of explosion coming off the edge. Brian Haynes liked to run defensive line games, twists and stunts. With some of the athletes they have, he could probably just rush forward and get a sack like we're seeing there.
That was immediate pressure again from Osun Sanme.
Just watch the speed and the quick twitch. This is what I'm talking about. It gives Brian Haynes the ability to rush 4, and notice he moves him inside, so you're working against a guard that's not used to playing these quicker defenders. I mean, he was in the lap of Josh Hoover within 1 second. That's the disruption that has this staff so excited.
Dodging Sam Simpson. I mean, him and Chidi Obi-Izer coming from K-State, Josh Burnham from Notre Dame.
Obi-Izer's a guy that I just think in terms of fit, he's perfect in this defense. He's a little bit bigger, 6'5", 279 pounds. There's position flexibility in this defense, and I think he can line up outside, inside, over the center, all across this defensive line. And both these guys are going to wreak havoc on opponents come fall.
Patty McAteer just drilled that from 56.
Talk about depth. They even got depth at kicker.
The Troy transfer, redshirt senior out of Ireland.
He had room good from 65.
Oh my gosh. He's going to take the role of Brendan Franke, the role he had last year with long field goals, kickoffs. Coming up July 11th, we got a long race in Chicago. The BTN Big 10K returns to Soldier Field in Chicago. Scan the QR code to register right now at btnbig10k.com to be a part of the 10K or the 5K race and post-race tailgate party. That was impressive.
And don't overlook that part of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, Indiana, their kickers made some huge kicks. Of course, in the Big Ten championship, on the road at Oregon, going into half. You know, especially when you get late in the season, you get in some close competitive games, the ability to get 3 points when you're kicking long field goals like we saw right there is a huge advantage.
Well, not to mention the field position game with punting, too. We don't have punts tonight because of the spring game rules, but Billy Gower's coming in from Hawaii. He's 29 years old, out of Australia. He played Australian rules football for 5 years, and he was the best punter in the country last year.
The Aussies are taking over American punting.
Another hit in the transfer portal for this team. Fewer transfers for Curt Signetti and Bryant Haynes, but higher quality, at least based on the projections. It was a top 10 transfer portal class.
Just talking to Signetti and his staff, they said the difference is they can get into different rooms these days. You know, they can get a conversation with the 5 stars and the 4 stars that they may not have been able to earlier in their career.
Shout out to Raider Nation. Let's go. Raiders! Silver and black, excited to get to work. Let's go. Shout out to Raider Nation. Let's go. Raiders!
The amount of toxic positivity in that quarterback room with him and Kirk Cousins is going to be off the charts.
Well, gosh, to that point, the Raiders have done such a great job of setting Mendoza up for success. You got a vet and mentor in Kirk Cousins, a lot of personality similarities there, and then you got your mentor Tom Brady in terms of competitive fire and playmaking ability. So Mendoza's surrounded by great mentorship.
Jacob Bell now at quarterback, the fourth stringer. He has got a gun, throwing a long way and a tumbling grab, it appears, for Hunter Stroud. Incomplete.
This is the 2-minute timeout.
Jacob Bell flipping from Ball State to IU a couple of years ago. Redshirt freshman out of the Chicago area in Naperville. And the fourth quarterback to play tonight. Again on Fernando and just some of the similarities he has with Tom Brady and the work ethic. Curt Signetti would see him working on his footwork, Fernando's footwork, by himself out of the field every Thursday morning when Curt got to the office. It was just that relentless pursuit. Even a story of Fernando watching a full year's worth of tape on Kirk Cousins just because he heard someone compared him to Kirk. He is going to thrive in the NFL with how intelligent he is and just the demand he has for himself. And no one better to coach that up even further than Curt Signetti. I don't think he's thinking about the NFL draft right now.
Not at all. Not at all. He knows one speed, and that's full go. I think they said he had like 1 day off after the national championship game, and then they're right back to recruiting, back to focusing on trying to repeat, create a dynasty.
Got the handoff just over a minute to go here in the spring game.
30 on the carry.
I mean, what he's done the last 2 years, but even going further back to James Madison. Since he became an FBS head coach, helped guide them through that transition. 6 losses in that time span, and keeping the same coordinators along the way. It is unprecedented.
Yeah, and that is really good company to be in, but I got to give a ton of credit to the Indiana University leadership in the athletic department, because all those other names come from perennial blue bloods in college football. And there's a ton of resources at Ohio State or Oregon or Alabama. And Indiana moved quickly after that first season with Signetti saying, hey, we want to lock our guy down for the future. And the love is mutual as Signetti wants to finish his career as the head coach of the Hoosiers.
And look, he's not Bob Knight, but with some of the antics that he's had, the impact that he's had on this state, there's a bit of a Bob Knight feel to him. Just with the overall impact that he's brought to this university.
And that's the value of getting a high-level head coach, is you have an impact beyond just winning games and scoring points. There's a statewide, nationwide emotional impact for the Hoosiers.
Bell will take off. They're not going to let the defense tackle him. There's about a minute to go left on a beautiful night in Bloomington. 21,000, just over 21,000 here at the spring game at Memorial Stadium. They built it up with the tailgating before. They were showing off all the hardware, the trophies beforehand as well. To be honest, a few years ago, they wouldn't get this many people for a regular season game. That's how far they've come.
Yeah.
IU's going to need a bigger trophy case.
I think Signetti said that, right?
Yeah.
He said they hired up a construction team because they need to make some more space.
Pick was dropped. Golden chance there. Yeah, large influx of hardware recently.
No sign of slowing down.
Casimir Hicks nearly had the pick, 54 seconds to go. So realistically, going into this season, we know the defense is going to be great. I think the big question does lie with Josh Hoover and how he can fit into this offense.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of things to be excited about. We mentioned the offensive line is deep, should be one of the nation's best. The running back room is 3 deep. They're excited about those guys. Charlie Becker and Nick Marsh, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. Factor in Tyler Morris, who's looked great, and that's another deep wide receiver room, but it's going to fall on the shoulders of Josh Hoover. And I think one thing...
Timeout, Indiana.
One thing that's interesting, Mendoza's legs were such an important part of last season, not something that Josh Hoover does. So we'll see how they adapt.
Yeah, a little bit more quickness within the pocket for him. Everyone's circling the Ohio State game, October 17th. IU will have a chance to ease into the season a bit.
And that's important because of everything we've talked about throughout the show. This was a long season last year. We mentioned how beat up they are. They're going to take the summer to get healthy. But then there's it is extremely likely that they're undefeated going into that home game against Ohio State. And then, of course, they have Michigan the following week. Those two games really will define Indiana's season.
USC is going to be better this year as well.
Of course.
Tight throw to Wasserstrom and stuck at the 40. Under 40 seconds to go in our spring game tonight after the gain of 11.
But here's the interesting thing, too, though, is for most teams when they would play in Ohio State or Michigan, there'd honestly be a healthy level of fear. Like you knew those programs were, frankly, just better. Now that's Indiana. Indiana is the one that's going to put fear in their opponents.
Long throw out to Shaz Preston. Gets the crowd to cheer. Yeah, you played for one of those programs. The way Jim Harbaugh turned things around so quickly. People have to get it through their minds that Indiana is an elite program and they are not going away.
I think the Big Ten knows it. The SEC should know it, but maybe they need another reminder.
Yeah, haven't picked up on it recently. Catch for the freshman tight end Blake Theory along the sideline as Bell operates quick tempo.
Blake Theory.
Good field awareness there. Gets 2 feet in.
He was split out wide a lot in high school. Who's going to step up at tight end? That's another question they've got to answer with Brock Schott, the presumed #1 tight end, out with injury still.
That's what Signetti said. He said, we have 1.5 tight ends, basically alluding to, hey, guys, you got to block if you want to be considered a full-time tight end.
That's right. All right, going to center the ball. Well done by Jacob Bell and the offense. Try and get one more field goal on the board. The offense is going to win the game tonight.
It's a good drive, though.
It was. Curt Signetti likes his quarterback room. Again, defense usually ahead of the offense in spring.
Timeout, Indiana.
Over the course of the summer, guys come back different in fall camp, especially at the quarterback position, with longer exposure to Curt Signetti's system. Patty McAteer hit one from 56. Josh Hoover will watch as Nico Radicic will try a short one to end the game. Radicic has a chance to become the most accurate field goal kicker in college football history if he puts up the same numbers he did last year. The snap was mishandled. Curt Signetti won't like the operation to end the game. Are they going to do it again? Got to do it again.
I warned you not to jinx it.
He didn't get into the motion.
Yeah. That is Signetti is not smiling after that.
No, he's not. The drop from Quinn Warren on the hold. Drew Clausen, the Iowa State transfer, in at long snapper.
There we go.
And that's clean for Radicic, no surprise. No jinx. All right, a lot to take in tonight. First look at Josh Hoover and Tyler Morris with an outstanding game at wide receiver as well.
Yeah, Josh Hoover, I think he got better as the game went on. Clearly comfortable with Tyler Morris. Will look even better when Charlie Becker comes back. We saw Turbo Richard make some nice plays, a little back and forth offense to defense, but it's a spring game. The truth is this